All right, so welcome to the seed saving workshop. My name is Lena Pogasov, and I am, I guess, a homesteader by choice. I was a scientist at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center for 13 years, and I'm a microbiologist by education. And when I started having children, my focus kind of shifted to more, how can I make them healthier and happier than career? So I retired about 2 years ago when baby number 4 was born. And we have been homesteading, my husband and I have been homesteading for about 6 years now. We have 1/6 of an acre and live around the Fairwood area. And I started a group, thank you.
Never mind the labels.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I started a Renton Backyard Farmers group on Facebook. So if you are part of the Facebook community, definitely a great group to join. It's not just for Renton, but we just want to kind of make it as local as possible because we do a chicken feed and rabbit feed group buy. So if you have chickens or rabbits, we do a big group buy, and that way you don't have to drive to Tacoma to pick up your feed. So that's the only reason why it's Renton. But I have this is the name of the group. It's on Facebook. We all know and love Sustainable Renton. It's another amazing group to be part of. They do a lot of good for the community. They also have a Facebook page, and they have meetings. And there's a booth out there. They will definitely tell you everything you need to know about them. I have a group that's also on Facebook and a blog for the homestead in the suburbs. That is my personal page, and that's where I share my experiences for sustainable living. But today I was asked to talk about seed saving, and totally left my notes in the other room. But seed saving is a very resourceful and sustainable way of keeping your own seed, right? So you grow tomatoes, you buy a packet of seeds, you grow tomatoes, and then you have these beautiful plants at the end. You grow the beautiful tomato, you eat it, you have an ability to save one, and then collect the seeds, and then grow your own. The way I got into seed saving was I grew this volunteer tomato. Just came out by itself in my garden, probably from one of the seeds that got dropped, or when I was feeding scraps to the chickens, something grew, and it was the most amazing, beautiful foliage, amazing tomatoes, little plums, so not quite as big as Roma, but not quite cherry tomato either. And they were beefy, like they're really good, delicious tomatoes. And I've been growing it. I've collected the seeds, and I've been growing it for about 3 years now, and I call it the Rentonian. So I don't know what the tomato is, but it's mine. I know that it grows because it volunteered and it came out in my garden by choice. I didn't plant it, I didn't love it, I didn't do everything I'm doing right now to my tomato babies. It just came out, and it came out when it had to come out, and it had enough of a season to grow and produce fruit in Renton. And that is one of the benefits of having your own seed, is whatever does really good in your garden is what you need to grow. You know, you don't want to, I can't grow eggplants. I've tried greenhouse, no greenhouse. I can't grow eggplants, so I gave up. I love eggplants. I can buy those at the store. I don't even try to grow it or seed save it or anything. Tomatoes I do. Last year was the first time I grew a yellow-green zebra tomato, so a yellow-green tomato. And it does taste a lot better if you grow them from your own seed, so there is a lot of that. There are different ways to save seeds. I will demonstrate how to get seeds and what to do with tomatoes. And then the obvious ones such as peas or beans or artichokes, the things that will produce a seed on their own without you having to do anything. So when you want to preserve seeds, you have to think, okay, what is it? Is it a self-pollinating, or does it need to be pollinated by another plant? Do you need a boy? Do you need a girl? Do they cross-pollinate? So if you want to save seeds from any pumpkin or a zucchini or anything in that family, you have to separate them. You cannot have these two plants growing together because they will cross-pollinate, and you will get a vegetable. And it may be the type of squash that you planted, or it may not be the type of squash that you planted. And sometimes when they cross-pollinate, you get something really cool looking, but it doesn't taste very good. So I'm always telling people that if you're going to plant squashes or pumpkins or zucchinis, you need to kind of pick the four corners of your garden and put them away from each other, because they will cross-pollinate. And there are different ways you can separate distance, seasons. If you don't want them to cross-pollinate because you have a lot of bugs, a lot of bees, you can plant something like wildflowers in between them. So the bees kind of go, ooh, flowers, and they kind of, they don't cross the barrier of the flowers. They stop at the wildflowers. Easiest way is to start with self-pollinators. Those are the easiest seeds to save, like tomatoes. They have everything they need to produce their own. They prefer to have some bugs, but you can grow tomatoes, you can grow cucumbers. Those things grow well in a greenhouse because they can self-pollinate. You can easily cut a tomato, squeeze out the seeds, dry them on a paper towel, and keep them keep them till the next year. You will sprout tomatoes. Your sprouting rate will be quite decreased, because tomatoes and anything that comes in a wet seed needs to be fermented. And fermenting a tomato is, I used to be really afraid of it, but then I did it once, and it was apparently the easiest thing I could do. Because tomatoes have that gelatinous, I don't know what it's called, but the goo, the coating that covers the seed. And you guys are all welcome to come up and look. You'll see that the tomato seed, they're in this like jelly-like sack. So by putting this and kind of breaking it apart with your hands into any container that you can then put either a paper towel or a loose lid, by putting these seeds and then maybe squishing as much of the juice out, the initial step, you don't want to add water. So something like this, my hands are gross now. Something like this, you would then cover. You have enough juice, all the seeds are covered, that's all that matters. And there's a lot more seeds in that tomato that you can totally keep squishing. I mean, you can, it's called milking the tomato. Who knew you could milk a tomato? You then cover this loosely so there is an air exchange, and you put that in somewhere kind of a darker place, not too much light exposure, covered for about 3 days. No more than 70 degrees, no colder than 60 degrees. So you do want it to be room temperature, basically. And you let it hang out for about 3 days. When you see it, you will often find a white film on it. That's good. That's fermentation. You're fermenting these seeds. By fermenting seeds and not just drying them on a paper towel, you're breaking down the enzymes that are anti-germination enzymes. So the seed is going to be more preserved. It's going to be better. It's going to be more disease resistant because you're going through this process. This is what happens when your tomato falls into the ground and sits there until the season, and then you sprout it the next spring. So this is a more closer, natural way to preserve seeds. At day 3, you will notice that all the schmutz, all the goo, and the dead, non-viable seeds will remain on top, and all the good seeds are going to be on the bottom. And at that point, you would add water, wash it, let it kind of settle, decant the liquid, the garbage, wash it about 3 times, and then you run it through a strainer, and then you put it on a paper towel and you dry it. And you want to dry it for a few days to make sure that they're very well dried. It's hard to do with these seeds, but most seeds, it's dry when you can take one and you can snap it in half. If it's not snappable, it's not dry enough. And at that point, you label it, because I have a lot of baggies of tomato seeds that I have no clue what they are, or I'll say like red. And then I have this like plan. I know that on this day I saved this tomato, and then I forget. So it's essential to label it if you want to know what you have. And then you store it in an airtight container. in a dark, cool place. So usually garage is a good place as long as it's dry. So airtight container is the essence here. If you do this, if you ferment the seeds and you store them in the proper way of decreased sunlight, decreased heat, and decreased air, you can keep them for about 4 to 6 years. And if you don't, they're good for about 1 year to 2 years. And you'll notice that they change color, they look different. You'll know that something is wrong. That works for seeds that are tomatoes-like seeds that are wet. If you want to preserve bell pepper seeds, or if you want to preserve zucchini seeds, all you really have to do is harvest the plant when it's already starting to yellow, so past what you want to eat. And you harvest it, and you want to let it sit in a dark, cool place for about 3 weeks. You want to give it 3 weeks to plump up. So once you pick the fruit, the plant itself and the fruit says, okay, so we need to make our seeds amazing so we can have more babies. That is the goal of every plant, is to grow and reproduce. It is not to feed you. I mean, that's a bonus for us. The goal of the plant is to grow, to thrive, and then make more babies. So you want to let it sit for about 3 weeks, and those seeds are going to mature. They're going to plump. They're going to get better. And then you cut it carefully. You're going to sacrifice some seeds, but really you don't need that many. It's always best to do 2 or 3 and to kind of mix and match. So in case there was something wrong with one plant, with one zucchini or one cucumber, that you have a couple more for like a genetic variation. You want to make sure you have a good sample. So you cut them, you take out the seeds. Zucchinis tend to be really dry. So you can just get the seeds out, put them on a paper towel, put them on some kind of anything that will exchange air. So I have, one of my dehydrators has the really fine mesh shelves, and I use that. So it provides structure so they don't fall all over the place, but air is exchanged between every seed. So that's important. And then you dry them, and again, it takes about 2 or 3 days on a nice sunny day. And as soon as you can snap them, and it's easier with the zucchini seeds because they're bigger, they're dry. With the cucumber seeds, sometimes when the cucumbers get old, the seeds also come encapsulated in that kind of a slimy seed pod holder thing. I don't know, the gelatinous matter. That you can wash off for the most part. And then you dry them and you do the same thing. As soon as you can snap it, you can store them airtight, not too warm, and dark places. So seeds don't like to be light exposed because they can start the germination process, or it can start the rotting process. Or if there's a bacteria that you didn't wash off good enough, it can always start the growth process of that. And it's always kind of heartbreaking when you open your little baggie of seeds and it's got some mold or whatever growing on it. Then we've all had the experience, if you've ever grown peas or beans, that you forget that one and you open it and they're dry. So that's pretty much, you dried your own seed. At that point, all you have to make sure that it is 100% dry and that you keep it in an airtight container in the dark and in the cool. And that's pretty much kind of how it goes. I have an artichoke, so I love artichokes. And last year was the first year that we were able to grow enough that we could eat. And I always let 1 or 2 flowers of every plant to kind of finish the cycle. Not because I need the seeds, I mean, that's a bonus for me, but because I think it's good to let the plant that is a perennial to go through the full cycle and kind of do everything it's supposed to do. Plus, artichokes bloom the most intense, beautiful. This part is the most beautiful purple color, and every bumblebee that's in your neighborhood is gonna wanna be on this one. So that's an added bonus. You're inviting and providing a good home for your pollinators. So I thought it would be cool to open this one here. I opened one last in the fall, but I thought it would be cool to see pokey little buggers too. So artichokes are just a phenomenal little plant. And I thought that you guys, if everybody wanted to come and pick their own, get a little poked, pick their own seeds for artichokes. Oh, that's good. If he knows how to crack this bad boy open, I would be happy to get them. At home, it was very pitiful. I was sitting on my porch and going, ow, 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 ow. So everybody is welcome to come and take a look. These are garbage, and I'll clean up, I promise, after. So all of these little fuzzies, they look like little dandelions. At the end of some of them, there's a cool little seed. You just kind of have to sacrifice a limb here and break it open. And then I sprouted these, and they are about this big in my house. So I know they're viable seeds. And you can see, watch, this is the one that's going to be all sterile. The seeds should be at the bottom. So if you've ever eaten an artichoke from, not canned, but raw, they come, so you peel back the leaves, and at the end there's a heart. So the seeds are in that heart. And, oh, there we go. So you get these little dandelion-esque things. And these are the seeds. And some seeds come, yep. So everybody is welcome to come and grab as many seeds. There's a baggie here. Let's make sure everybody gets at least some. These tomatoes, this is a store-bought tomato. I have no idea how it's grown, if it's a hybrid. If you're saving seeds and you have a hybrid plant, you want to make sure that you don't save those seeds, because you don't know what you're going to get. And if you do, you might be pleasantly surprised that you get a totally different tomato, or you might get a sterile tomato that was used just for the foliage, and the other tomato that they hybridized to was the kind of like the tomato. So I only save seeds from heirlooms or organic heirlooms, because I know that if I save the green zebra, I'm gonna get the green zebra and not something funky. So that's important. And I had another thought. So if you are gonna take home an artichoke seed.
Yeah, I made one bag.
Oh, good. Artichoke seeds are hard. They need to be stratified. Stratified means they need to go through some kind of a chemical or a heat change. These things, what you do is you come home, you put them on a little bit of dirt, not too deep, not too compact. You don't want to like pound it in there. And then you're going to cover your pot with cellophane, and you're going to put that pot into the fridge for 10 days. And then once you take that out, you're going to stick it on a windowsill. If you have grow lights, that's going to be an added bonus. And in about a week, it will sprout, and it'll come out with the little stem will come out, and then the little leaves will pop up, and it is really, really cool. And these are perennials, so they're going to be good for about 5 to 8 years. Eventually, you'll have to change them. They're not forever. They're not a bush, but they will, and they winter over really well, so they should survive.
I missed the beginning part, so what to do with these seeds?
So you're going to come home, and you're going to put them in a little pot of soil.
Okay.
And then you're going to cover them with cellophane, so you're producing like a little greenhouse, so moisture control. And you're going to stick them in a fridge for 10 days. And then you'll take them out. You can keep the cellophane, because then you're going to have a greenhouse effect, so that you don't have to keep watering it. You don't want to drown your seed, but you don't want to dry your seed. So there's like that fine way of making sure it has just enough water. And then you shall grow artichokes. And I would, if you always plant more than one, because what if you get the one dud, right? So if you are able to plant 5 seeds, please plant all 5 seeds. If you end up having 5 plants and you don't know what to do with them, it's always easy to gift a plant, and it's a perennial, so you'll have them for about 5 to 8 years if they don't die. They're pretty hardy. This is global artichoke, and I've had this plant in my garden for this will be the 3rd year, and they produce pretty big, pretty decent sized artichokes that are delicious. And if you want to let them flower, if you want to let them they are beautiful. And the pollinators love them, and they last for a really long time. So you'll have the pretty purple in your garden for a long time. So there, we cracked open a seed here for artichokes. Grab a baggie.
How many days in the refrigerator?
10.
10 days.
So the seeds are inside that furry part?
So last year from 2 plants we ate 9, and we let 2 go, and there was about 3 or 4 little ones that didn't bloom, but we didn't collect either.
First?
Yes. So if you want to collect the seeds, you let it dry on the plant for as long as you can before it starts raining. You don't want it to start raining because then that thing is going to start getting moldy.
Okay.
So right as before the rain starts, I cut it down, I hang it upside down, and when it's fully dry, I harvest the seeds.
Would you say that's like till spring that you dry it?
Oh, no.
Not that long.
Inside at room temperature, it will dry in a couple days.
And then do you pull the seeds out at that point?
Yes.
And wait till spring to plant?
Yes. I saved this one because I knew I was going to do this talk. And then this you would also keep in a cool place in as much airtight. So you don't want to have moisture, air, or a lot of sunlight when you're trying to store seeds. And seeds can be stored for anywhere from a year to 8 years.
On this particular?
No, this one's about good for about 4 years.
Okay.
Onion seeds, garlic seeds, corn seeds, parsnip seeds. I'm not sure why parsnip. Those seeds you can only keep really for a year. So if somebody says, oh, I've had these onion seeds, you can try them, but honestly, after a year, no onion or garlic seed is going to produce you a plant. So, yes.
Okay,
feel
after putting
how
the
soft
seeds in the
it is.
refrigerator for 10 days, then do you put them outside? Is there
No, I would let them sprout indoors. For our area, the last frost date is average March 13th, and that's when the soil is workable. So a lot of the seed packets will say put outside when the soil is workable. That usually happens about March 13th for us. However, we've had snow yesterday, so I don't know. I think it's common sense, but I always start everything indoors and let them kind of get hardy. One, they will get frostbitten. Two, a slug will mow it down. Thank you so much for helping. So I definitely recommend that if you are not part of the Sustainable Renton, join this group. We do seed swaps. There's amazing seeds available for you. Some starts, some perennials. I'm not quite sure what they have. Renton Backyard Farmers. We have a buying group for seeds, a buying group for feed. We have, like last year we had one gal who had zucchinis coming out of her ears, and she was like, somebody please take these. Other gal was overwhelmed with the amount of strawberries, so we do a little bit of bartering. We help each other out. If I have something that's garden related or farm related that I don't want, I post on there. So that's a great resource to have. There's lots of resources. If you Google how to save seeds, you're gonna get 59 different plus resources. The one that I really like, that you can get the best resources in my idea, is the Seed Savers Exchange has a blog, and in that blog, if there's a search option and you put seed saving, and it will give you how to do a germination test. So every time I save my own seeds and I want to share them with anybody, I always do a germination test. I take about 5 to 10 seeds if I can spare that many. Obviously, if it's more precious, I take less. But if I have a lot of seeds, if I have a lot of tomato seeds that I saved and I want to share them with somebody, I want to make sure that they are viable seeds, that I did a good job, I will take 5 to 10 seeds, I will put them on a paper towel, get them wet, let them sprout. And then I can say, oh, I got 8 out of 10. That means 80% viability. That's good. If only one sprouted, I'm probably not going to share those seeds. I might try to plant them for myself and then see what happens. But if I'm sharing seeds, I want to make sure I'm not giving you, duds. I want to make sure you get good seeds. So doing a germination test is always nice. It takes about a week to sprout tomatoes. So if you're going to plant tomato seeds and you're going to take that week and you're going to miss that window, which is like February and early March, right? So if you want to grow a tomato from seed, you already have to have a plant about yay big. Or get it going now to make sure that it's done. You don't want to waste that week without knowing that these are good seeds. So in January, I do a big seed test, and I plant every seed that I have. I try to take a sample of each seeds that I have, and I plant them, and whatever sprouts, I then grow. I don't waste the time on the ones that don't. Seeds you can preserve, and then they're free. Seeds are also cheap enough that you can buy. And if you're part of a group that does seed swapping, then somebody will say, I'm done with my tomato seeds. Does anybody else want them? It doesn't make sense to keep a little baggie of onion seeds that are going to be bad next year. So you can throw them away next year, or you can share them, or you can just overdo it and plant onions everywhere. So that's it for me. I have the life cycles. I teach elementary also. So I have the life cycles of the plant. And we're talking about more of the seed pod and the seed and how to preserve it. I didn't really emphasize the apple. Anything that is a tree is a totally different kind of ball game for seed saving. You can do the same thing. You can dry them. You can keep them airtight. A lot of the apple trees or any other tree that you buy has a different rootstock and a different body. So that's grafting. Trees are a different ball game. So especially for beginners, definitely stick with annual plants and self-pollinators, because then you don't have to worry about saving a pumpkin zucchini cross, which does not taste good. I can tell you that for a fact. It's not a pumpkin, it's not a zucchini, and you're like, bah, chickens love it. So definitely that. I have a few books here that I brought that were kind of applicable. You always want to choose, if you're going to save any seeds, you always want to choose the best fruit, the best vegetable. You don't want to take some dinky, sickly looking. You know, you want to get if you're going to try to reproduce it, you want to take the prized fruit on that tomato. You want to get the best, the bigger, and you want to let it ripen. You don't want to take a half ripened one. You want to be absolutely the best thing that you would want to eat. You want to save that for the seeds, because then when you plant all those seeds, you're going to get absolutely the best. If you plant garlic, it's easy just to break up garlic, not seeds, but the little cloves. If you plant little garlic cloves that you're thinking, oh, they're kind of a pain in the butt and I don't want to deal with them, you're going to get a little garlic. If you plant a nice big clove, you're going to get a nice big head of garlic. So same with seeds. If you plant something that was kind of like genetic garbage and it didn't look good, but it's hard because you want to eat it. And you still can. You can totally squish all the seeds out and you can still eat the meat of the tomato. So, but save the best for the seed saving, and then you'll be able to reproduce the best. Question?
Have you ever had, do like cucumbers cross-pollinate with squash?
I have never had that, but I don't see why not. They're in the same kind of realm. I always grow my cucumbers in a greenhouse, and they're pretty removed from my whole garden. I tried to grow pumpkins in one corner of the yard, squashes in the other, zucchini, and then I have the greenhouse for the cucumbers. So, and it's like one of those little Harbor Freight dinky, but it's enough to give a physical barrier. And I tried to have flowers all over the garden so the bees kind of have other areas to feed on. I have comfrey growing everywhere. I know this has nothing to do with it, but it's like, I swear by comfrey. If you don't have a comfrey plant growing in your garden, you should. Most people, once they have it, they get so much of it, they are willing to give it away. It's a root, you put it in, and then it grows everywhere. And not only is it amazing for your garden because you can make comfrey tea and water, anything and everything, and you get all the benefits. You plant it under trees. When it dies down, it provides enough nitrogen, phosphorus, anything that you would want to fertilize that tree in that pile of dead leaves. You can cut it down 3 or 4 times a year, feed it to your chickens, dry it. You can use it for human consumption too. I don't know anything about that, but they produce the most beautiful little flowers, and the honeybees love them too. So honeybees, bumblebees. So definitely the more flowers you have, the more pollinations you're gonna have take place, the better fruit you're gonna get, the more opportunity to save seeds you're gonna have. So looks like you're having a blast here, and bless your heart, thank you so much. You can see that one artichoke plant produces quite a bit of garbage. I tried really hard to come up with a use for these things, for like some arts or crafts, and I had the bag sitting for I don't know how long, and then I just succumbed and I put them in the compost. But you can see how the seed would spread otherwise. So it would be attached to this, and the wind will carry this, and it will be planted right there. Probably gets stratified by the cold winter, so it sits in the cold soil, and then it will sprout. And you can see that there's a million of these things, so because not all of these are gonna grow into a plant, but even if 10% of these would produce a new plant, that's pretty awesome. In a controlled environment such as mine, I planted 18 plants, and all 18 came up because I did everything but to these plants. I wanted to make sure that they were absolutely, there you go, absolutely in the best condition. I chose selected the seed that it didn't have any blemishes or any you know, that it looked perfect. And I planted that and I loved it for 10 days in the fridge, and then I've been babying them since then. So all 18 came out. Whether all 18 will survive, I don't know. But
Things like lettuce and all those.
lettuce, so if you've ever had lettuce bolt, where it goes into flower, it produces a long stem with a bunch of little flowers, and they dry at a different time. You can collect it once they all look dry. They come in these pods almost like, so the flower, once the flower is done blooming, they produce this pod, and then you can shake off daily or weekly into a little container and then maybe let them dry for a day. You can collect them, or you can let it reseed itself. But thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Each job.
Yeah, so there's a lot here too. So everybody, I hope you grab some plants. These grow amazing in Renton. I've had them in my garden for the 3rd year now, so they should do really well for you. Yeah, that's about it. That's what we do. With peas, beans, tomatoes, I do the fermenting. Cucumbers and squashes, I just collect and dry. The key point with those is to make sure you give them about 3 weeks to fill up their seed, to mature the seed. Once you cut the fruit or the vegetable off the vine, they go into the preserve mode. And that's when they emphasize not so much on what you're gonna eat, but on the seed inside, so they can say like, preserve and repopulate. Preserve, that's all they wanna do. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.